Welcome back to the 2016 Bridgewater's Finest Movie Awards. And here we go, folks. You made it. Main event time. The top 10 best movies of 2016. Let's waste no time. Let's do this. My number 10 best movie of 2016 is The Girl on the Train. The Girl on the Train is a suspense thriller starring Emily Blunt, Haley Bennett, Justin Theroux, and Luke Evans, and is directed by Tate Taylor. The Girl on the Train focuses on Rachel, played by Emily Blunt, who's devastated by her recent divorce, and spends her daily commute basically fantasizing about the seemingly perfect couple, played by Haley Bennett and Luke Evans, who live in a house that her train passes by every day. One morning on her commute, she happens to see something very shocking take place at that house, and she then gets herself tied up in the mystery that follows. Anybody that knows me knows that I work in a bookstore. The Girl on the Train is a best-selling book by Paula Hawkins, and I had expectations. I had high expectations going into this movie. I hoped that the movie did the book justice, and to me it seemed like it did. I felt that the movie actually stayed pretty faithful to the source material, whereas you look at its obvious comparable, which would be a movie like Gone Girl, which really dove off script in multiple places for the movie compared to the book. So I like that a book adaptation will stay faithful as it can anyway, to the source material. Let's take a second and talk about Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt is, at this point, probably a modern master craftswoman of her art. Like, she can play anything believably. She's arguably the most versatile actress in Hollywood today, and she is incredible as Rachel in Girl on the Train. And actually, props to Haley Bennett as well. She plays a really interesting character. She's the other girl in the movie, and Haley Bennett had a pretty good year this year, but she plays a really interesting character, and she plays it incredibly well. I think the thing that really gets me about Girl on the Train is it's one of those stories that they call the unreliable narrator. Usually when you're reading a story or you're watching a movie, if it's from a certain person's point of view, or if it's from like kind of the omniscient, the all-knowing, all-seeing narrator, you can trust that it's accurate and it's reliable. A movie like this, because of the nature of Rachel's character, it's an unreliable narrator, and I love unreliable narrator stories because you never really can tell what's real and what's not real, and I love stories like that, and Girl on the Train is one of the best that I've seen in recent memory. The narration style seemed to confuse a lot of people. It didn't do that for me. I thought it was done really, really well. At a rating of 80 out of 100, The Girl on the Train is my number 10 best movie of 2016. My number 9 best movie of 2016 is Arrival. Arrival is a sci-fi mystery starring Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, and Forrest Whitaker, and directed by one of my personal favorite directors, Denis Villeneuve. Taking place after multiple alien crafts have landed at locations around the world, an expert linguist, played by Amy Adams, is recruited by the US military to determine whether the crafts are friend or threat. As I kind of alluded to, hi, I'm Justin, and I'm a Denis Villeneuve fanboy. One thing that I absolutely loved about the movie, and I don't think many people are going to make note of it, Denis Villeneuve employs the same kind of visual obstruction technique, which is smoke, fog, haze, that he uses in another one of his movies, Enemy, where Jake Gyllenhaal plays himself and basically his evil twin. And that's a technique that he employs in that movie, and it's a technique that he employs here again in Arrival, and I absolutely love it because I love the kind of tension that gets developed when you're in the alien pods and you're looking at basically just this big white screen and you can't really see anything, and then you kind of see something moving, and then all of a sudden there's like a tentacle basically in your face, and it's the tension that gets built that way. And Denis Villeneuve, essentially a master at this point, and I love that technique, and I love that he brought that technique forward into Arrival. Speaking of his other movies, I liked Arrival better than I liked Enemy, but I don't think Arrival hit me on quite the same level as my favorite Denis Villeneuve movie, which is Prisoners from a few years ago. I believe it was 2013. The more I talk about it, 2013 was a really good year in movies. Anyways, Arrival does this thing for sci-fi movies where it's a movie that focuses less on its sci-fi elements. Like, the sci-fi elements are there, obviously, but it focuses less on them and focuses more on message and story and character development. And the sci-fi that does that and focuses a little bit less on its sci-fi elements is refreshing every now and then. Something like a District 9 that really didn't focus on its sci-fi elements as much as it focused on culture and story and message and character development. District 9, one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time, and Arrival kind of takes that same road, and I really enjoyed that. Plus, Arrival hits you with this beautiful hypothetical situation. It doesn't really come out and say it so much, but it presents it, it displays it, and it kind of leaves it up to you to both find it and see what you think about it. It presents it, but it does it at just the perfect time, because it's basically right at the end of the movie. So you're thinking about this, and all of a sudden the movie ends. And the effect that this has is you're thinking about it as you're walking out of the theater, you're thinking about it as you're driving home, you're thinking about it that night. The movie, therefore, has a life beyond when the credits roll. And this was just masterfully done by Denis Villeneuve and the creative team behind Arrival. At a rating of 80 out of 100, Arrival is my number 9 best movie of 2016. My number 8 best movie of 2016 is Everybody Wants Some. Everybody Wants Some is a comedy starring Tyler Hoechlin, Zoe Deutsch, and Blake Jenner, and is directed by God himself, Richard Linklater. Everybody Wants Some is the spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused, where basically Richard Linklater said, you want the 70s? Here's Dazed and Confused. With Everybody Wants Some, he said, you want the 80s? Here's Everybody Wants Some. In Everybody Wants Some, a group of college baseball players navigate their way through the freedoms and responsibilities of unsupervised adulthood. I'm going to employ a term that gets used a few times in the movie, and it's basically the best descriptor of the movie. This is fuckwithery the movie. Basically, all of these characters are ball-busting all of the other characters all the time. And it's basically just college guys making fun of all their friends. And it's the kinds of conversations between these like pseudo-macho 80s typical jock college guys. But it's just so damn engaging. And it's Richard Linklater. It can just make you like things and make you feel things and make you appreciate things. That's why I called him God. He can literally manipulate you. And this movie was manipulating me from the first frame, and I knew it, and I couldn't care less because I was just having such a good damn time. This movie is 100% style over substance. You can argue that nothing happens in this movie, and I would argue that I don't care. I guess sort of one of the primary things that happens is you have a relationship that spawns between the main character, played by Blake Jenner, his name was Jake, and Zoe Deutsch's character by the name of Beverly. And I dug their dynamic. Like, they were it was kind of that sort of ball-busting-y thing at the beginning, but it develops into more than that, and I really dug their dynamic. I dug the experience of this movie. Even if, quote-unquote, nothing happens, I don't care. Like, this movie made me so happy. And that's really a strong degree of how I judge movies are based on how they make me feel. And Everybody Wants Some, from the very first frame to the very last frame, was just a movie that made me happy. At a rating of 80 out of 100, Everybody Wants Some is my number 8 best movie of 2016. All hail your Lord and Master, Richard Linklater. My number 7 best movie of 2016 is Captain America: Civil War. Now, Captain America: Civil War, obviously, sci-fi action-adventure, you all know what this is. Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Sebastian Stan, Scarlett Johansson, ensemble cast, basically everybody in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point is in this movie, and it's directed by the Russo brothers. I'm sure you all know the story, but in Captain America: Civil War, governmental interference in the Avengers' freedoms and their activities leads to a rift between Captain America, Chris Evans, and Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. For me, Civil War was actually pretty comparable to Winter Soldier. I think I liked Winter Soldier a little bit better. I gave them the same rating, but I think I liked Winter Soldier just the tiniest bit better than I liked Civil War. I guess maybe part of that was like Civil War, there's so much material in Civil War, and I don't think they really took full advantage of all the material that they had available to them in the Civil War storyline. And I guess if I had another criticism, I didn't really feel like Civil War set up very well for Infinity War, for the next Avengers movie. Now, they've still got 2 years and a bunch of movies to do that. I know Doctor Strange kind of starts setting that up a little bit. Black Panther is going to go, I believe, a long way to doing that, as well as Thor Ragnarok. So I understand they've got a lot of time still to do this. I was just kind of hoping, I guess, to see a little bit more of it in Civil War. Didn't happen. That's fine. It doesn't make the movie bad by any means. It is where it is on the list. But I was just kind of hoping maybe to see a little bit more of that. Speaking of Black Panther, his introduction is awesome. I'm going to love the Black Panther character. I love the way it was introduced. I love the story arc within this movie. Can't wait for the individual Black Panther movie. Love that character. But here's my favorite element of this movie, and it was something that I've been waiting for the Marvel Cinematic Universe to give me ever since the first Captain America movie. So I've been waiting a while for this specifically. It gave me an element of Captain America's character that I have been desperately, desperately waiting for. Imperfection. Captain America is not perfect in this movie. There's a really good chance that Captain America is wrong. He shows vulnerability in this movie. He shows imperfection in this movie. You know how Max Landis talks about everybody hates Superman because he takes the stakes out of everything? The character never changes. He wins all the time. Same reason people hate John Cena in professional wrestling. It's kind of the reason why I thought Captain America was such a bland character, is he's never really shown as being vulnerable or threatened. I've never felt personally threatened for Captain America in any of these movies. In this movie, he's shown as imperfect. And that was something that I really desperately needed from the character, to give the character more depth and for me to get more involved with the character personally. I needed to see it, and they gave it to me. At a rating of 85 out of 100, Captain America Civil War is my number 7 best movie of 2016. My number 6 best movie of 2016 is The Magnificent Seven. Now, The Magnificent Seven is a straight-up Western, ladies and gentlemen. It's a Western in 2016, and it was done very well. Straight-up Western, stars Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke, Haley Bennett, and Chris Pratt, but it's basically an ensemble cast. There are a lot more people in it than just that, and it is directed by Antoine Fuqua. In The Magnificent Seven, 7 hired guns in the Old West come together to protect a village from a gang of bandit thieves. It's entirely possible that I've just plain become a sucker for a good Western done really well, and that's what Magnificent Seven is. It's a good Western, a straight-up Western done really well. Antoine Fuqua clearly made a creative choice with this movie, which was, aside from making it like kind of an action-y Western, really, except for, of course, the ultimate shootout, he took the excellent cast that he put together for this and let their performances and their natural chemistry with each other sit at the forefront of the movie. That's a creative choice that you can make, and it was the right decision given the cast that he had. Excellent choice, and it really made the movie come to life. Again, Denzel Washington, he delivers. He's incredible in this movie. Ethan Hawke, he's incredible in this movie. Vincent D'Onofrio, in a sea of great performances, may have been the MVP in this movie. He's great. Chris Pratt, he's still underrated, even if I didn't like Passengers as much as some other people. And apparently a lot of people really didn't like Passengers. But Chris Pratt, he's underrated. Even now, even with all the praise that Chris Pratt gets, he's still underrated. He steals every single scene that he's in this movie. Haley Bennett, as I mentioned, she's really good in this movie as well. The ensemble cast in this movie is great, and it gets the story over in a really meaningful way, and it's incredibly entertaining. If you dig Westerns, if you dig great performances, Magnificent Seven, #Mag7, is definitely for you. And at a rating of 85 out of 100, The Magnificent Seven is my number 6 best movie of 2016. Hey guys, guess what? It's top 5 time. It's the big ones. Let's go. My number 5 best movie of 2016 is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. You know what this is. Action sci-fi, stars Felicity Jones, Forrest Whitaker, Alan Tudyk, and Donnie Yen, and is directed by Gareth Edwards. Rogue One focuses on the story of stealing the Death Star plans from the Empire, a bold move which sets up the original trilogy to come. I'm sitting in the theater watching this movie and I'm pondering, like, what would it take to make a bad Star Wars movie today? For me personally, to think that it was bad. And then I kind of sat back and thought about huge chunks of Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace, and I was like, okay, that's what it takes. Always be vigilant. Rogue One, luckily, is an incredible Star Wars movie. Felicity Jones, she's amazing as the main character. The ensemble cast is incredibly good. It's another smart-talking, fast-talking robot, and we love those in our Star Wars movies, so the robot was incredible. The story, it's gritty. It's gritty Star Wars. It's Star Wars really as we've never seen it before, basically as a war movie, and that was refreshing. The story plays itself out and just grits itself out in a really incredible way. Gareth Edwards, proper choice for a director. He has a really steady hand here. The direction is really excellent. The CGI, it's kind of the elephant in the room with this movie. In certain ways, the CGI is incredible. And in some other ways, it's pretty jarring. And those specific ways are called Governor Tarkin and Princess Leia. That said, Rogue One was everything that I needed this story to be. I didn't need it to be a new Star Wars episode, because it's not a Star Wars episode, it's a Star Wars story, which is part of why there was no crawl. It doesn't bother me that there was no crawl. But this was everything that this story needed to be for me. It fleshed out that what felt like a throwaway line at the time in A New Hope. That line being, many Boffins died for this information. And that gives substance to that line. And I thought it was great. I thought they did everything incredibly well in this movie. At a rating of 85 out of 100, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story is my number 5 best movie of 2016. My number 4 best movie of 2016, I talked about it in an earlier video, is Demolition. Now, Demolition, straight up drama film, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Naomi Watts, and Chris Cooper, directed by Jean-Marc Vallée. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Jake Gyllenhaal, investment banker, whose wife dies in a car accident. He basically has to deconstruct the life that he used to know in order to build up a new one. And again, I will just continue to beat that Jean-Marc Vallée needs more work immediately. I will beat that drum until the sticks explode out of my hand. Demolition, it probably tiptoes that melodramatic line in more than a couple of places, but it never crosses it. It never becomes too melodramatic, too sappy, too silly. It never crosses that line. It tiptoes it, it gives you a taste of it, but it always kind of pulls back into its more serious and important storytelling. Once again, the intrigue in this movie really comes from a character going from maintained, composed, my life is planned out for me, going from that to none of this ultimately matters, I'm going to break all this down in order to really find myself. And he does find himself, again, like I mentioned before, as kind of almost a disestablished hedonist. Now, I mean, he's got money, so he's not really disestablished, but he is disestablished from the comfort of a life that he used to know. And he really finds himself and finds who he is and finds enjoyment in life again after he breaks down everything that he thought he used to be. You watch this story unfold under a very steady directorial hand from Jean-Marc Vallée. Direction's incredible, performance of Jake Gyllenhaal is incredible, and it's a spectacularly selected cast which also insulates this material, brings the most out of this material. At a rating of 85 out of 100, Demolition is my number 4 best movie of 2016. My number 3 best movie of 2016, we also talked about this one a little bit earlier, it's Zootopia, animated crime drama starring the voices of Jason Bateman, Idris Elba, Octavia Spencer, and Alan Tudyk, directed by Rich Moore, Byron Howard, and Jared Bush. Again, fast-talking fox, gets framed for a crime he didn't commit. A new cop in town, a new bunny cop, a bunny cop movie instead of a buddy cop movie, but bunny cop is on his trail. They become the victims of an interior conspiracy within the city of Zootopia. They have to team up in order to solve the conspiracy, solve the mystery. Again, this movie just hit me like one of those really high-level efforts out of Disney, on the level of like a Big Hero 6. Like, I would put Zootopia up against even the best that the Disney-Pixar combination has put out there through the years, and we all know how incredible those movies have been. Like I said earlier, it's a really crazy, well-rounded movie. You can watch this in any condition, happy, sad, solo viewing, date night viewing, taking the family to the movies, watching it at home. You can watch this anywhere, and you can be anyone to watch this movie, and you're going to find a lot of material to enjoy, and it's going to resonate with you. Again, the dynamics of the city of Zootopia, allegories to racism and segregation and things like that, all, again, very, very deceptively smart. At a rating of 85 out of 100, Zootopia, my number 3 best movie of 2016. These are the big ones. Here's the top 2. I rated them both 90 out of 100. So these two were the two that were competing for the top spot all year long. As soon as I saw the second one, I was like, this is now a competition. And really, I didn't really decide how I was going to go on it until last night. Here's the top 2. My number 2 best movie of 2016 is Deadpool. Deadpool, sci-fi action comedy starring Ryan Reynolds, who worked for a decade to get this movie done. Also stars TJ Miller, Morena Baccarin, and Ed Skrein, and is directed by Tim Miller, who unfortunately will not be back for Deadpool 2. Obviously, this is the origin story of Deadpool, who is the alter ego of Wade Wilson, played by Ryan Reynolds. Wade Wilson is a former Special Forces operative who has turned into a mercenary since coming home, and he undergoes a radical sort of rogue experiment to attempt to cure his cancer. What ends up happening is the experiment is intended to activate dormant mutant cells in someone's body in order to create super slaves. And really, there's precious little more to be said about Deadpool that hasn't already been said. Everything that everyone says this movie is, it is, and I love it for it. It's hilarious. It's a well-done superhero movie. It's crude humor. It's probably lowest common denominator humor. And Ryan Reynolds is amazing as Deadpool. He just kills it. I will say this movie didn't have the greatest villain that I've ever seen, and X-Men movies can sometimes kind of suffer from that. So this one definitely didn't have the greatest villain that I've ever seen, but the villain didn't have to be great. It was the origin story of Deadpool that had to be what was really well done in this, and it was incredibly well done. Everybody talks in this movie about the fourth wall breaking dialogue and how it can be really distracting to some people in certain cases. I actually thought they used the fourth wall and breaking of the fourth wall as like an incredible narrative device, where I understand that other movies it can get pretty bad, but it was a pretty good narrative device as far as I was concerned, and they used it really well in this movie. Again, Ryan Reynolds is the main event here. He owns it as Deadpool. I can't wait for Deadpool 2. I can't wait for X-Force. I can't wait to see if Deadpool is going to cameo in X-Men movies. Everything that Deadpool does from here on out, I will be the first in line. At a rating of 90 out of 100, Deadpool, my number 2 best movie of 2016. My number 1 best movie of 2016 is Kubo and the Two Strings. Again, animated fantasy, we talked about it earlier. Voices of Matthew McConaughey, Charlize Theron, Ralph Fiennes, as well as Rooney Mara. Directed by Travis Knight. Story of Kubo, who's a young boy. An age-old vendetta gets brought back up. A spirit invades his life. He has to in order to survive, find a suit of armor that his father, a legendary samurai, once wore. And again, as much as I just talked about Deadpool, as much as I love Deadpool for what that movie is and everything that movie is, I love Kubo and the Two Strings even more for everything that this movie is. The fact that, like I mentioned before, it has all the aesthetic elements that get me, beautiful animation, the Japanese setting, and is really faithful to those things. It's also faithful to the art of telling that story, and telling that story like it's its own legend. It's its own fairy tale. It's a fairy tale within a fairy tale. And that's just what I loved so much about this movie. And that tagline, if you must blink, do it now. And it's so telling for the movie itself, because you start watching the movie and it's, if you gotta blink, do it now, because you don't want to miss anything about Kubo and the Two Strings. Incredible filmmaking. Again, it tells a rich story. It doesn't deaden its really serious elements and its, difficult to deal with elements. It doesn't water those down. It doesn't deaden them for its assumedly younger audience. It doesn't do that. It's these are the elements, here they are, here's how we're going to present them. Life's not pretty kind of thing. And they do that so amazingly well in this movie, and I have to give them all the credit in the world for not taking the easy way out and deadening those elements because they assume it's mostly kids that are going to be watching. Kubo and the Two Strings connects with every single person in its audience, which is what elite, great animated filmmaking does. At a rating of 90 out of 100, Kubo and the Two Strings is my #1 best movie of 2016. Did I miss an opportunity by not putting Magnificent Seven as number 7? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for joining me for yet another year of the Bridgewater's Finest Movie Awards this year for 2016. I believe this was year number 7 for doing awards. 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, and 2016. That was back even before the channel started. So year 7 of doing awards, and specifically movie awards. I love doing this every year. I love kind of taking a break from talking sports, even though the NFL playoffs are today. They start today when I'm doing this recording, but it's nice to take a break from talking sports to talk a little bit of movies with you. Another great love of mine. I hope you guys enjoyed the movie awards for 2016, and I officially declare the 2016 Bridgewater's Finest Movie Awards to be closed. Thank you for watching. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. Thanks one more time for watching. We'll see you again in 2017.
Thank you.